Hey everybody, it's me, Miss Lisa. Welcome to Stitch Kids. Today, the project we are going to begin is a fun, fuzzy fleece hat. Very similar to this one. Perfect for the cool fall weather. So to make this fun, fuzzy fleece hat, you will need to pick up a kit of supplies from the South Huntington Public Library. Your kit will include one rectangle of fun fuzzy fleece, one strip of fleece, several pieces of embroidery thread, and a handful of pony beads. To complete this project, you will need a pair of scissors, and you will also need your sewing kit. My sewing kit is being taken care of by my pin pal. My sewing kit includes pins and needles and a needle threader. All right, let's get started. To make this project, you do not need a pattern. However, you do need to pay attention to a few of the characteristics of your fleece so that your hat stays nice and stretchy on your head. You have a rectangle of fleece. As you know from school, a rectangle has four corners, 90-degree angles, but two sides are longer than the other two sides. You will notice that the short side of your rectangle is the stretchier side. So go ahead, turn your fleece to the short side and give it a pull, and you'll see how stretchy it is. If you don't believe me, turn your rectangle the other way and give the long side a pull, and you'll find that it is not as soft and stretchy. The other thing you'll need to know about your fleece is that your fleece may have a right side and a wrong side. The right side of the fleece is usually smoother and the pattern may be brighter. This is the right side of this fleece. The wrong side of the fabric is a little bit coarser, it's a little fuzzier feeling, and sometimes the color is not as vibrant. To complete this project, you will need to put the right side of your fabric together. You're going to fold it along the short, stretchy side. So find the short, stretchy side, find the right side of your fabric, and let's fold it so the right side of the fabric is on the inside of the rectangle. Now you should have one really long, skinny rectangle like this. The not stretchy side is the longest side. The stretchy side is the short side. We are going to prepare the rectangle for sewing, and this is where pins from your sewing kit will come in very handy. Here is my rectangle of fleece. It's kind of hard to see in the video, but the right sides, which are the brightest colors, are on the inside of my fold. The stretchy part is the narrow part of the rectangle. There's a fold on one side and open fabric here on the other. Before we begin stitching, we're going to add some pins to the open side to hold the fabric together while we sew. I'm going to take my pin pal and borrow some of the pins, poking through both pieces of fabric and then out the other side like this. And continue all along the open side until you get to the end. The pins don't need to be right next to each other. You can leave some distance between them. The important thing is that you feel the fabric is securely stuck together. Sometimes it can be hard to sew, and remember to hold your fabric together. The pins will help hold the fabric together for you so you can concentrate on your stitches. Okay, I think think I can add one more here to the end. There we go. Okay. Ready. Choose a needle with a large eye, like this one, and grab your needle threader. Push the wire part of your needle threader through the eye of the needle. Hold it steady and put one end of your embroidery thread through the wire part of the threader. Give it a little tug to pull it through the eye. Pull until the tail comes through. And you can put your needle threader away for now. We're going to leave a little tail here at the needle end of the thread, and we're going to tie a knot at the other end. Wrap the thread around your finger, push the little tail through the loop, and pull. Because we are using a thick needle and thick embroidery thread, I'm going to make a double knot, just to be certain that I don't pull my stitches through the fabric as I'm sewing. Okay, now you can start at one end of your rectangle, and the stitch we are going to use today is called a whip stitch, which is a very simple and quick stitch. Push the needle through both pieces of fleece and pull the thread through all the way. Go to the back of the fabric, push the needle through both. Make sure the needle comes up even to your first stitch and pull. And you'll see that your thread is wrapped around both pieces of fabric and is securing them both together. Unlike the blanket stitch, it doesn't have that nice decorative piece of thread that goes from stitch to stitch. This is just simply going to be binding the two together and keeping them together while the hat is on your head. Keep in mind as you sew, always come up through the back. Make sure your next stitch is approximately the same distance away as the previous two stitches, and maybe about 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch from the edge of the fabric. So continue with this stitch until you get to the end of your rectangle, and you may stop when you get to the end, leaving both of the narrow sides open. You'll see why when we're finished stitching. Okay, you're probably sewing along, and everything is going smoothly and wonderfully with your whip stitches. They're nice and tight and even. As your thread is getting shorter and shorter, you can pull on the main piece of thread here to shorten this tail so you have more thread to use. But you will probably notice that you have a little piece of thread and you still have a long way to go to get to the end of your fabric. That's okay. When you feel that you've reached the end of your thread and you have just enough thread to make a knot, stop sewing. When it's time to make a knot, you'll put your needle under your last stitch, being careful not to go through the fabric, just go under the thread, pull it through, leave a little loop, put your needle through the loop, and pull to make a knot. If you're not sure it's going to hold, you can do it one more time to make a double knot. I like to do that just to be safe. And then you can trim your thread. Okay, now you can rethread your needle and continue sewing until you reach the end of your rectangle. Okay, when you've reached the end of your rectangle, it will be time to tie off the thread. Get as close to the edge as we can. Just make sure that you don't run out of thread before you get there. I can do just a couple more stitches. And there we go, last stitch. Okay. So to tie off, find the last stitch, put the needle under the stitch, pull it through, find the loop, put the needle through the loop, and pull to make a knot. I like to make 2 knots, so I'm going to do it again. There we go. And now you can clip the thread, put your needle back in your pin pal, and let's take all of the pins out of the rectangle, put them back into the pin pal so they stay safe, so you don't lose them, so you don't drop them on the floor and eventually step on them later. There we go. Let's make sure all of the pins are out. And now we can move on to the next step. Okay. Your rectangle is sewn together. You did a great job. You have some nice, even, tight stitches along the open side, or what was the open side. One end is open, and the other end is open. Now, choose an end, and what you're going to do is turn your rectangle inside out by kind of rolling it a little bit. Maybe like you're putting on some socks, or you're trying to take a pajama top that got inside out and put it back the right way. You're going to pull on one side and try to get it to go all the way to the other side and make it nice and flat. So you're sort of turning it halfway inside out. It's a little tricky. Just keep pulling it and maybe give it a little shake. Set it down on the table. Okay, that looks pretty good. So it is halfway inside out. Now you'll notice one side is the side I'm going to call the finished side. This is where the fold is, where you folded and pulled and made your rectangle inside out. You'll see it's nice and smooth. The other side is the unfinished side. These are the 2 sides of your rectangle that you put together. Right now we're going to work with the unfinished side and the piece of fleece that was in your sewing kit. Okay, what we're going to make now is the fuzzy ball part that's on the top of the hat. You do that by gathering the unfinished part together like this, and you're going to pinch it. It looks like you're leaving maybe 1, 2, 3 inches of fleece up at the top, and you're pinching it right here with your hand. Carefully take the strip of fleece, wrap it around where you are pinching it, carefully let go, and now tie this piece of fleece in a double knot. Tie it as tight as you can. You might need to get a grown-up to help you hold this together while you tie. That's okay. And I'm going to tie it in 2 knots like that. Okay, so I have a bunched up top and I have a knotted fleece string hanging down the side. Now we're going to make the fuzzy part of the fuzzy hat ball with a pair of scissors. So find a piece of fleece, separate it from the others, and cut it into a strip. It can be as thick or as thin as you would like, but try to make them all approximately the same width. Continue on that one piece of fleece. I'm working on the piece of fleece that's around the outside. Those are the easiest to reach right now. I'm going to continue to make strips. I'm going to go all the way around the hat until I get to where I started. And you'll see that the fleece is kind of laying down. So if you start on the outside, it will be easy to reach the ones on the inside because these on the outside are already laying themselves down and getting out of the way. Okay, just a couple more cuts and then we can start on the inside. Yeah, there we go. Okay. You'll notice that there is a piece of fleece with your stitches on it. You don't have to cut that. In fact, you should probably leave it sewn together. So if it's a little bit wider than the others, don't worry, just leave it as it is. And find another piece of fleece and start cutting just like you did with the outside layer, making them as wide or as narrow as you would like. Go all the way around so it starts to look nice and puffy. Okay, it's coming together very nicely. If your hand starts to get tired, you can stop and take a rest. Like with most sewing projects, it's okay to do a little bit at a time. You don't have to finish everything all at once. There we go. A nice puffy puff ball for the top of your hat. Now we're going to add some decoration to the 2 strips of fleece that are hanging down the sides. And that's where these big beads come in. Choose one piece of your fleece and kind of fold it or roll up the end so it makes a little tube. Push that tube into one of these beads. See if we can get it to come out the other side. Can be a little bit tricky because the fleece is so thick. So you might need a grown-up to help you, or we can roll this up a little tighter the second time and maybe it'll be a little bit easier. I have 6 beads here and I have 2 strips of fleece. So there's a math problem for you. How many beads go on each piece? If you said 3, you are correct. Okay, there's 2. And I have 1 more to add to this side. Push the fleece through. All 3 beads are there. And now I'm going to make a knot by wrapping the fleece around my finger. It makes a loop and push the tail of the fleece through the loop and pull it tight. And if you'd like, you can snip this into a couple of strips too. Make it look a little fancy. Now you can do the same thing to the other side. How many beads do you have left? You started with 6, you've used 3, and now you have 3 beads left. That's correct. That just shows you that math is important in everything, even sewing. Okay, there's 1. I'm going to twist this fleece up nice and tight. 2. And 3. There we go. I'm going to make a knot, wrapping the strip around my finger, a loop, push the loop through, push the tail through the loop, pull it tight, and maybe make this look a little fancy. There we go. And now you have some decoration on your hat. If you don't want these to be this long, push your beads up, make a new loop, and trim off the extra. It's up to you. Okay, now it's looking more like a hat, isn't it? This part is where you get to try it on. You can wear your hat just like this, floppy if you would like, or you can fold up the bottom to make a nice brim. So just grab a few inches of the fleece and fold it up all the way around the hat. And there, it sits nice and tight on your head. And if it's cold out, you can always unroll it and cover up your ears so you stay nice and warm. So thank you so much for sewing with me today. Our next project will be a monster mouth secret pouch. It's a little tiny zipper bag that looks like a monster. So we'll be working with zippers, buttons, and felt. We'll be doing that in a couple of weeks. I hope to see you then. In the meantime, stay warm and take care. Goodbye.